Hey guys, Nate here again with the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. Good morning, and I am excited for this week. It's just been it's been a really fun week for me. It's been a lot going on, and part of the reason for that is InfoComm is coming up next week. So if you know, I've been really interested in InfoComm since about 2007. Prior to 2007, I was like an Audio Engineering Society guy. AES is a student of sound recording technology. I would go to the AES conventions in New York and in California. Alternates coasts. And then I graduated, realized, you know, it's going to be really hard to get a job in a studio, and I kind of wanted a 9-to-5, and you know, I had this girl I was interested in, and became my wife. So anyway, I wanted to spend time with her and not spend all waking hours in the studio, because that's kind of what you have to do if you want to get a job in a studio, which is cool. So, like, I commend people for doing that, but it's definitely a lifestyle choice. So anyway, back to this week, and it's exciting. So I started getting into InfoComm for a while. Only last year, 2014, was the first year I was able to go to InfoComm. Well, I guess I should. It was the first year a company valued me enough to send me to InfoComm on their behalf, right? So this is year number 2 where I'm going to InfoComm. My first time down in Orlando. Last year it was in Las Vegas. So this year headed down to Orlando next week. On Tuesday I'll be jumping on a plane. And the cool thing is I've been starting to get involved a lot more with different social media groups and communities. So like Church Sound and Multimedia, you know, Technology, I think it's called that. Yeah, Church Sound and Multimedia Tech. It's one of the church tech groups that I participate in on Facebook. And then there's, you know, the AV Tweeps community on Twitter, which is mostly pro AV and you know, systems integration folks. But it goes beyond that too. And then there's AV Install Nightmares group, and then there's podcasts. I've been really digging into podcasts. I started my own podcast called the AV Shop Talk podcast. I do that with Jason Griffin. He's out on the West Coast. But that's the other reason why I'm excited, is because one of my favorite podcasts is Church Tech Weekly with Mike Sessler and Van Metschke. I think I'm pronouncing that name right, Van. But they do a really, really good podcast. I wish I had found it sooner. I don't know why I didn't find it sooner. I think this year when I started this vlog, the Volunteer Tech Vlog, only actually when I started vlogging did I really start to like dig in and explore and see, like, okay, who's out there in the church tech world that's kind of really consistently creating content and throwing it out there to help church tech people. And then I found out about this hashtag. It's like CTL, Church Tech Leaders, and there's a lot I still don't know about it, but I am slowly learning more and more. And I can't stress enough the power of podcasting. I think I'm a bit of a podcast junkie. I started with like Car Talk and the Dave Ramsey podcast way back in the day. They were like one of the first big ones that I really paid attention to, and like I'd download all the episodes and put them on my Microsoft Zoom because I didn't have an iPhone or anything. Man, listen to those. But there's just something about podcasting. Like, as you can tell, I spend a lot of time driving to and from work, and man, the commercials on the radio just grind on you after a while, right? And the same 10 songs grind on you after a while. And so I've been pumping in a lot of podcasts to my auditory diet. Listen to all kinds of stuff: TED Talks, Tim Keller sermons, all kinds of like great stuff to feed my mind when I'm driving, and it just makes the commute go by a little better. So back to my excitement for InfoComm in this week. So last night we had well, this is kind of a double whammy for me. So I started like really following AV Week. That's another podcast that I really like. In addition to Mike Sessler's, I just found out about Mike's recently. But before that, probably my biggest, my must listen every week was an AV Nation podcast called AV Week. And it's definitely geared more towards integrators and pro AV folks, not so much like Church Tech or Live Sound, but they have a whole bunch of different podcasts. But definitely AV Week is their flagship podcast. So Tim Albright and George Tucker kind of headed that one up. And they've got some other people. I think Michael Drainer is involved and Don Mead is involved. I'm not forgetting anybody. I think those are like the big players for AV Nation. Chris Netto's involved with that now, and Josh Strago. So there's just different guys that I know from Twitter because they work as integrators or they work for manufacturers. But I don't know, just over the years, been kind of tweeting out about AV Nation and tweeting at Tim and just being like, hey, I really like your stuff. And we just kind of developed kind of a social media connection. And then last year at Infocom, my first time there, he hooked me up with a press pass because I was doing some blogging and doing some work for him and just helping promote and working with Chris Netto. And that was really cool. My first time to the big Infocom show, to be kind of given like a backstage pass, if you will, to the exhibition floor. I got to go on the floor early, I could go late, I could, had access to places that normal attendees don't have access to. And it was really cool. And it's all from social media. And so last night, Jason and I, for the AV Shop Talk YouTube channel, did a hangout on air, and we had Tim and George on, and we just talked about Infocom 15. And it was just really cool. We had a few people, I think up to like 9 people watching live at one point. We had Jennifer Willard ask a question, and she's one of the women behind Women in AV, the WAVE group, which I got to find more out about. I'd love to have them on the podcast actually to learn more about how they're mentoring women in the industry and focusing on that specific demographic. Because I mean, if you work in pro AV or tech, there's not a lot of women in this market, and so I think it's really cool of them to intentionally seek out mentoring relationships with younger girls that are getting into the industry, that are trying to improve their career. So I'd like to find out more about that. But the other huge thing was for this week was Mike Sessler and Van are doing their road trip because Mike's moving across the country, and they did this Ask Me Anything thing. So of course I'm going to take advantage of that because these guys have been around the block a few more times than I have. I'm going to see what they've got to say. And so I asked them some questions related to Church Tech, and specifically a volunteer TD versus a committee, and just how to be a good steward and manage things well on an all volunteer team, which is exactly kind of why I created this vlog, to kind of just say, hey, I'm a volunteer tech on the side, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm doing well, this is just kind of document everything and just try to be as transparent as I can to to move the ball down the court a little bit further, to be encouraging to other volunteers out there, to be educational for other volunteers that may not have as much of an understanding of Pro AV technology. So it's been a really fun project to do in the car and make use of my time driving. But so anyway, I asked them a question in episode 242 of Church Tech Weekly. They spent like a good probably 10-15 minutes answering my question as they're driving. They were recording on this road trip as they're driving across the country. So again, I'm just super excited about being able to talk to George and Tim this week from AV Nation, and getting like a personal response to my question in the Church Tech Weekly podcast. I feel like I've got access to these great mentors off in the cloud that I maybe have not necessarily met or had a relationship with, but I just think that's really cool. So the whole podcasting and social media for me is a huge value. It's a huge networking tool. It's a huge way for me to connect and learn with others, and then also share that knowledge through the Volunteer Tech Vlog too. So I'm just kind of flow through is kind of a theme here. I want to learn not just to be super smart, tech savvy person, but so that I can train and equip other people. That's kind of the whole point of what I'm trying to do here. So a really good week. Infocom 15 coming up. Oh, I was blabbing too long. I think the video cut out on me. But anyway, I was just saying, today's Thursday. I'm excited to hear from Mike and Van and from Tim and George this week. And there's some pretty cool meetups happening down at InfoComm next week. So definitely thinking about doing that. Thinking about trying to get into a training session for mixing with some pretty big names in church tech. So anyway, I'm just excited for it. Got to get through today, get some work done today and tomorrow, and man, InfoComm is right around the corner. So if you are headed to InfoComm, let me know. I'd love to hear from you and hear what your story's like and what you're going to be up to down in Orlando next week. All right, my name's Nate with the Volunteer Tech Log. Keep up the good work.